Hey guys, good morning and welcome back to Answers on Eschatology. My name is Dan Derry and I'm the president of the Institute of Fulfilled Eschatology. So we are jumping into Matthew chapter 24, and if you haven't caught up on the first 5 videos, mainly introduction, go back and watch those. We lay a powerful framework, and a context from which we can interpret the book of Matthew chapter 24. There's some important stuff in there that you do not want to miss. So go back and watch those videos if you haven't seen them. If you have, well, you're caught up, and we are jumping into verse 3 of Matthew 24. So let's just read the first 3 verses and we'll jump in. I want to keep this video short and simple, and next one we'll jump into some deeper waters. Jesus came out from the temple and was going away when his disciples came up to point out the temple buildings. And he said to them, "Do you not see all these things? Truly I say to you, not one stone here will be left upon another, which will not be thrown down." And as he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will these things happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age?" Now watch this. There's two words in this text we need to be aware of. This word coming, they said, when will be the sign of your coming? The Greek word is parousia, and it's a presence. It's a covenantal presence. It's translated coming, but it's better translated as a presence. The other word is aeon, which is translated in the NASB as age. King James and some other translations have it, when will be the end of the world? That's a terrible translation. The word is age. So the NASB has it very accurate. When will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? Now notice, they connected in the disciples in their own minds. They connected the fall of Jerusalem, when Jesus pronounced that every stone coming down, with the Lord's presence, his covenantal presence, his coming, and the end of the Mosaic age. See, guys, they were standing and living in the old covenant age. We would all agree with this. They were asking, when will this take place? And when will be the sign of your coming in the end of the age? In other words, they understood that the destruction of Jerusalem would mark the coming of the Lord in judgment and the end of the old covenant age. Now, I want to parallel these words in Matthew 3 with the parallel text in Mark 13 and Luke 21. Let's go there and look at these. It'll help us understand what Matthew was saying. So, Mark chapter 13 and verse 2. Let's just look at this again. "And Jesus said to him, 'Do you not see these great buildings? Not one stone will be left upon another, which will not be torn down.' And as he was sitting on the Mount of Olives opposite the temple, Peter and James and John and Andrew were questioning him privately, 'Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign that all these things are going to be fulfilled?'" So they leave off any word about your coming or the end of the age. They just say simply, "Lord, when's this going to happen? And when are we going to know it's going to happen?" Okay, let's look at Luke. Luke 21, and let's look at 6. "As for these things which you are looking at, all the days will come in which there will not be one stone upon another which will not be torn down." They questioned him, saying, "Teacher, when therefore will these things happen? And what will be the sign when these things are about to take place?" Once again, no mention of the coming of the Lord or the end of the age. They simply say, they heard him pronounce judgment upon Jerusalem, and they say, "Lord, when are these things going to happen? And what sign will mark the beginning of these things happening?" And so we have to understand that Matthew is talking about this. He's saying the same thing. Go back to Matthew chapter 24 again. Watch this. Matthew, his first question is the same. Their first questions are the same. Watch this. As he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came in private saying, "Tell us, when will these things happen?" Same question as in Mark and in Luke. When will these things happen? And instead of saying, "What sign will you give us so that we can know these things are going to happen?" he says, "Tell us, when will these things happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age?" Oh, okay. So Mark and Luke say what sign will indicate Jerusalem's going to be destroyed. Matthew says what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age. You see, guys, the coming of the Lord would be the end of the Old Covenant age. Are you with me? His coming would mark the destruction of Jerusalem and the end of the Old Covenant age. They asked for a sign when those things would be fulfilled in Luke and Mark. And Matthew says, what sign are we going to know that you're coming and that you're ending the Old Covenant age? You see, the end of the Old Covenant age would be when Jerusalem was completely destroyed and the power of the holy people completely shattered. Daniel 12:7. And that would be at the coming of the Lord in AD 70 to judge Israel for shedding innocent blood. Matthew 23:30 and following. And it would be the desolation of that Old Covenant house. So guys, in Matthew chapter 24 verse 3, when they ask, when will these things be and what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? They are simply asking Jesus, Lord, when are you going to come and destroy Jerusalem and bring the end to this Old Covenant age, to this age that they're standing in? When are you, in other words, when are you going to usher in the kingdom? Are you with me? They understood that the kingdom would come at the end of the law of Moses, at the end of the Old Covenant age, and at the coming of Messiah in power and glory. And guys, what I want to show you in the next couple of videos is why the disciples would have connected the destruction of Jerusalem with his coming, with the parousia of the Lord, and the end of the Old Covenant age. And the reason for that is, number one, their Old Testament scriptures place the coming of the Lord at the destruction of Jerusalem. And number two, Jesus had said over and over in his parables throughout his ministry with his disciples that when he came, that when the king returned, he would destroy those who would shed the blood of his servants. He would render judgment upon Jerusalem for shedding innocent blood and for plundering the people. And that would mark the end of that era, that age, and that would usher in the kingdom. And we'll take a look at that next time on Answers on Eschatology. Bye for now, guys. See you soon.